Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Release.
Come on, Brent. Line's good. Got real close. The hair high, right? Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham. Scott alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
We're back, Sean.
Yeah, took a bit of a hiatus.
Hiatus, yeah.
Yeah. For no real reason other than the greatest ability of all, Scott, availability.
Availability, yes, yeah. Yes. Well, you were away for a bit, and I was busy, and it's fiscal year end and year beginning, and
yep,
it all sucks. But we're here.
We are, yes. Matters. So we last talked at the end of March, right before the men's world championship. And then I was on the road for 10 days or so. We had the long weekend as well. Then I was on the road, and then we came back, and you were busy, and other things are happening. And there's a Bonspiel that we're playing in sort of right now. So a lot going on since the last time we chatted. We're going to go through it all, through everything that's been going on in the world of curling, in particular, some of the lineup changes. I'll put a timestamp down below if all you care about are the lineup changes. But let's talk, Scott, real quick about what we missed. In particular, I want to talk real quick about the Men's World Championship.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Edin gets another championship, another trophy for his, shelves. And I didn't see any of it after the first weekend. So yeah. I don't really know anything that happened other than the last shot of the event. I did see that draw that Nick Edin made. And I had actually read the quotes from Brad Gushu before watching the draw, where he said, if you had told us after whatever end it was where they were down, if that's the draw you're going to give them to win the game, they would have taken it. And when I watched it, I was like, yeah, that you would take that, I think. And he's not going to make it that often. Maybe it's a 50-50 type shot. So, Scott, does that trump at this point Rachel Homan's split as your early leader in the clubhouse for shot of the year?
I mean, that's the shot that wins the event.
Yeah.
But you could argue that Rachel Homan's shot also wins the event.
Yep.
And I would argue Rachel Homan's shot was harder.
Okay.
So no, for me, it doesn't. I watched a lot of the Men's World Championships. It was very good. I thought the curling overall was really, really good the whole week. A lot of great shots by everyone. I did think that Edin's team was the team, the class of the field throughout the week. And they only lost, I think, their last game, right? It's so long ago now.
Yeah.
But the final, Canada didn't play great. And it reminded
they fell behind, right?
Yeah, they fell behind. It reminded me of last year's final against Scotland when Gushu missed and went down 4-1. And I believe it was 4-1 that he was down against Edin as well. And that was basically it, because Mount was making everything last year, and Edin and his team were also making everything this year. They were able to get it back within reach with a couple of mistakes. Mm-hmm. But like Brad said, like, they were thrilled to have that final shot for him, right? Like,
yeah,
given the way it had gone through the first five. So yeah, I think it was a really, really good event. The right team won. Not for me the shot of the year on his last, but a really, really, really good shot. And I'm trying to think of the semifinal games. Neither of them were super close. Well, the Canada-Scotland game, no, they broke it open.
No, 9-4. Canada wins over Scotland, a 3 in the 6th and a 3 in the 8th to break that one open. And Nick Edin beat
a steal of 3 in the 6th. That was just a Bruce Mount light on a draw.
Yeah,
and it was crazy.
Yeah. And then Nicodine beats Joel Returnes 5-3 in the other final, but it was 5-2 playing the eighth and a fourth. So,
Yeah.
or excuse me, 5-1 playing the eighth, and then he gets a fourth. So 5-2 and 9 with the hammer. Yeah, not
They were in
too
control the whole
much
game.
drama there. Yeah.
No.
So
that, that's it. Nicodine strengthening his grasp on the greatest men's player ever.
he's high up there, I think, for sure. It's
7
kind of hard
world
to.
championships.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Even in an era where you go to all of them, that's really, a lot of teams go to every Briar and don't win 7 of them.
Yeah.
So,
and it's 5 of the last 6 as well. So that's an impressive run, to be sure, as well as the Olympic gold medal in that span, an Olympic silver medal in that span. It's pretty good. The only thing that he hasn't really done in the past couple of years is the Euros. He's last won that in 2019, but he has 7 of those as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, another gap in his resume is the Swedish national championship. Hasn't won that since 2020. So, you show up and play in that if you want to. But so congratulations to Team Nicodine. Then there was a Grand Slam after that. Brad Gushu won on the men's side. Scott, the players will tell you that the Players' Championship is the most important event, or the one that they value the most, or maybe not value the most, but like they talk about it as it's really important, the big thing. Here's one point that I might make questioning that, right? We saw it last year with Bruce Mowitt's team that they were not, let's say, focused after having won the World Championship 2 days before that event started. This year, however many teams on the men's side, not quite half the field, were in Switzerland 2 days before the event started. So perhaps not the greatest condition to play. That being said, when you look at the playoffs, that didn't seem to really matter. Maybe because those teams were playing and the other teams have been sitting around for a while. And it just kind of makes me question about what the Players is going to be. Now that there's the new owners of the Grand Slam circuit, we haven't talked about that on the show, but Sportsnet no longer owns it. They're going to have exclusive rights to show it. See if they increase coverage. Probably not. Hopefully they don't decrease coverage. But maybe there's a case to be made. Push it back a week for the Players. And then everybody from the Men's World Championship has a little more time to breathe. And maybe you get it a little more of a competitive environment. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's going to have to do with the availability of the building as well.
Sure. It's exam season there at Toronto Metropolitan University. You probably can't push it back too much if they. I mean, a lot of these schools use the gyms or arenas for their exams. Underrated thing at the University of Ottawa. If you go to the Draft Pub during exam seasons, you can watch the exams from the pub, and you may or may not want to create a pub game while you watch the exams, and may or may not want to bet on it with people that you're in grad school with. Maybe not.
That's an oddly specific, hypothetical there, Sean. But I don't know, because there's the balance of pushing it too far into the nice weather. Do people want to watch curling once it's sunny and the buds are flowering and all that stuff? So you got to balance that. Really quick, Sean, about this ownership change for the Grand Slams.
Yeah.
In the press release, it said the Grand Slams are well known for creating a raucous atmosphere similar to the Waste Management Open in golf.
Interesting.
I have been to the Grand Slam events, a couple, not everyone.
Yeah.
They ran out of wings in the Pinty's pub, Sean. And I think if that was the Waste Management Open, people would have What's the right phrase?
Burn it to the ground.
Burned everything down.
Yeah, the golf course would no longer be there.
Yeah. So a bit of a stretch,
A little bit,
in my opinion, with that, but I don't know. We'll see if they can stream the first couple days, maybe, if Sportsnet's not going to put them on. Change up the formats a bit. I know they are big at working with the players. They like reverted to tiebreakers after the players expressed some displeasure. Maybe they can work with the players to come up with a format that it isn't so the same.
Yeah, something fun.
And I think about golf. Yeah, you play. It's basically the same format every tournament, but the holes are different, so the shots are different. In one of these curling events, right? Like on TV, they all look the same.
Yeah.
So the only way to differentiate them is with the scoring system, the format for advancing through the tournament. Something has to be different.
Yeah, I think you could do well. We have a whole episode about different ways to make to make the slams unique. I think for sure you can talk about. I didn't like the match play format. I appreciate that they tried it, but you could go to a skin style for one of the events. You could mix up teams and have a lighter type event, the Continental Cup. RIP to that. But you could have, say, 2 men, 2 women playing together and divvy up teams in that way somehow. Teams put together. We talked about a mixed doubles component to a Grand Slam. There are ways you can do it. There are things you could do. And somewhat curiously or coincidentally, the one that I think does have an identity is the Players' Championship because of where it's played.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks the same on TV, but it's in Toronto. It used to be Maple Leaf Gardens. There's something to that. And I don't know. It's probably not a good idea to have 5 permanent hosts for each of these events, but you've built, I think, a bit of an identity with the players. Just a question of can you do it with the other 4? Or are they going to add some of them back or take some of them away and have it be more like a Grand Slam, like in golf or tennis, where it's the 4 big ones. And that maybe forces teams to go play on the circuit a little bit more in clubs. And then you have the 4 pinnacle type events. I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be curious. And it's a topic for the summer.
Yeah. And the schedule is out for next year. So that's definitely fodder for a future episode.
Yes. Scott, anything else from the world of curling? The mixed doubles is going on right now as we are recording this. Team Canada locked up a playoff spot today, beating China on Wednesday. I believe that clinched them the spot. They lost to the Rana siblings on Tuesday. So I believe the Swedish team has the inside track still on that number 1 seed in the pool, but the Lots are playing well and should have a spot into the playoffs. We won't talk too much about that because it is ongoing, but we'll see how that goes over the rest of the week. And that kind of wraps up the curling season. The seniors is going on as well. I should note the World Seniors, and that'll put a pin in it. And I think that's it. Because we consider once Korea plays their national championship in the summer as the new season. Right? This is it. So this is the end of this season. So we are coming to the end of it. But yeah, anything else, Scott, over the past month before we get into lineups?
So in the seniors, Canada has locked up playoff spots for both the men's and women's. In the mixed doubles, Canada has not got a Q next to their name just yet because they can still lose 2 more games, but they've beaten everybody. They've beaten everybody below them, but there might be some kind of way that a tiebreaker might come into play. Who knows?
Okay. All right. Well, we will keep an eye out on that. That wraps up over the weekend. Scott, do you want to get into announcements?
Let's get into it. There's been a lot.
Yeah. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to go in chronological order? Do you want to go in order of import based on our own subjective rankings? Do you want to just
Let's
randomly pick? What do you want to do?
let's start with the big one that was kind of the first to drop, right? The big one was Botcher's been fired by his 3 teammates.
Yeah. So the announcement comes out that Brendan Botcher will not be playing with Mark Kennedy and Brent Gallant and Ben Hebert next season. That 2 statements come out on the same day, not quite at the same time, but on the same day. One from the 3 of them saying that they're going to go in a different direction. One from Botcher saying that curling is truly in its golden age. And I didn't really understand where he was going with that, but whatever. I mean, I like the sentiment, Brendan Botcher. And the quotes that come out afterwards, Gregory Strong interviewed Mark Kennedy, and then Rod Peterson on his show interviewed Ben Hebert. And they both talked about really the timeline for the team, and both alluded to the fact that for Kennedy and Hebert, this might be their last quad. So they have essentially 18 months until the Olympic trials, and that's their timeline. And Kennedy was very complimentary towards Botcher and his potential, saying that it's still possible that he'll go on to be one of the greatest skips that this country's ever seen. And he's very positive on his skill, his ability as a skip. But within the next 18 months, can he get to the point where they need him to be as a skip, with particular reference to Brad Gushue, who has kind of changed the math for all these teams on the men's side. And that was the decision that they made, that no, on the timeline that they're in, Brendan Botcher won't get there. And I don't know, Scott. I'm not in, obviously, the rooms with them. I'm not watching them practice the day-to-day, what the discussions are like. I've seen Brendan Botcher make a lot of shots. I've seen Brad Jacobs make a lot of shots too, but I don't know if it's not that I don't buy the rationale. I don't want to read more into it than what they're saying, but isn't Brendan Botcher already one of the best skips in the country? That I just don't know, and don't know what to make of it. So where do you sit, and how do you kind of try to understand this move?
Well, I think that you're not wrong. Brendan Botcher is one of the best skips in the country. They're the number 3 team in the world, or something like that. But he's won 1 Canadian championship.
Yes.
As has Brad Jacobs, right?
Correct.
But he hasn't had the experience in the big moments that would give you the confidence necessarily that he's ready to lead a team with as many people who do have that experience in front of him, if that makes sense. I think what I got from reading all the press releases, reading the comments from Kennedy, but also from Ben Hebert did an interview with the Regina paper or Saskatoon paper, was that, their timeline is different, that they think that Brendan, might become the greatest, like one of the greatest Canadian curlers ever, but he's not going to be that in the next 18 months, in their opinion, for that team.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of big personalities there. That's difficult to manage, right? When you're supposed to be the leader of the team and everyone playing for you has multiple world championships, Olympic medals.
Yeah.
Like, by all accounts, and that's the accounts of all the players, he did a good job fitting in with the team. But sometimes you just need something different. And I believe the team that this is what they had to do.
Yeah, I guess what's not curious about it, but he's the same guy that they signed up with 2 years ago, right? Like, I don't think he's not worse than he was. So
no,
I'm not necessarily like they had all this experience 2 years ago, the 3 of them. right? They knew who they were. They knew their resumes. They had everything they had. So that's part of what I'm a little confused about, is that none of that stuff is new, unless they're seeing something that, again, in practice, in the events, there's things that they're seeing that they just didn't know or didn't pick up on, or if there's trends that have emerged in terms of maybe shots that are being missed, line calls that are being missed, forms of communication. Like, if there's just something that you can only glean from playing together,
Yeah.
I guess. But again, he's the same, if not a little better than he was 2 years ago.
And I think, well, in politics, like, a coalition forms in a minority government, and you work together to get some things done, and you think, okay, we can get to where we need to go, but at a certain point, the emotion of non-confidence comes in, and you sit back and think, yeah, we're not confident. And if the three other players were all on the same page about this,
Yeah.
then what service does it do you to stick it out another year? Because then you're not gonna go in to the trials, right? Like, this is the big year.
Yeah.
And I can't believe they would have made that decision without knowing who they were going to go get, right? Because
No, there's no way. Yeah.
you can't take a swing that big and then be like, left musical chairs,
Right.
Nobody's left, right? So
Of course.
that I'm sure was into it as well. And
100%.
yeah, as soon as it happened, I think everyone was speculating, what's this?
There's
what's
two
that?
choices. There's only two guys out there who it could have been, and it was either Cooey or it was Jacobs. And as soon as Jacobs, the next day or whatever it was, announced that he was leaving Team Carruthers, oh, okay, that locks that up. And it makes sense. I mean, Kennedy played with Jacobs, and that led to my favorite era of Brad Jacobs. And so we'll see. And Brad Jacobs, you talk about big personalities on that team. Brad Jacobs has some familiarity with big personalities over the course of his career.
Mhm.
So he can certainly deal with the three of them. And they're all on the same or closer to the same age. They all have Olympic experience. They all have an Olympic medal. They've all won a Brier. So in terms of those things, it all works together. I wonder, Scott, too, this is like, I don't actually mean this, but maybe just calling him Botch all the time, maybe that subconsciously makes you think that he's not going to make shots. Like, maybe you got to work on that nickname a little bit. Darren Molding always called him Brendan. He was very specific, Brendan. And these guys call him Botch a lot. But yeah, so this means that Brad Jacobs is going to come in. He will be skipping this team. Also, I should note, Scott, in your analogy there, Paul Webster is the governor general who drops the writ, I guess. So that is going to be the team moving forward. I like this move in terms of the new team, but I also like the old team too. And we'll have to see if it works. But we saw when Brad Jacobs decided to take a year off, and then he came back this year and took over the team. Well, not took over, stepped into the skipping role with Reed Carruthers. They had a really good week at the Brier, and this older, calmer Brad Jacobs, as I said, I like listening to him now. I think it's actually, I think, very good communication, but also there's I get some level of entertainment, just the way he shuts down the conversation to say, all right, let's think about this. Just that the way he goes about it, I find very funny. But the point is to win games. And the question now is this team on par, or can it get on par? It's not on par with Brad Gushue right now. They haven't played together yet. Can it get to the level where it is a legitimate challenger to the Gushue dynasty?
Yeah, I guess that's the big question. And what was referenced there was that everyone's trying to catch up to Gushue, which is, I don't know if it's a condemnation of maybe the way the way Curling Canada is set up its high performance program, that everyone's trying to catch Brad Gushu, who just sort of does whatever he wants, sitting out there, who has a team that's not young, changed only because they had to. I mean, I guess.
Well, no, because Brett Gallant decided to go play with Brendan Botcher.
But Brett Gallant did that because he was moving to Alberta, right? So,
yeah, but as we've seen, Gushu, just if you keep winning, you don't need to deal with
don't change anything.
Residency rules.
Yeah,
and now the residency rules don't even apply to them, or
no, right? They don't.
Like, not even because they won. Like, top 3 doesn't matter, right? And as long as he wants to be and physically can be, he'll be in the top 3.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting to me that this is the impetus for the move, right? Is that the team as they were didn't feel like they could beat Brad Gushu.
Right.
Fair enough.
Well, they haven't. Nobody has.
No, exactly. So spurred a few other moves as well. Do you want to talk about those?
I don't know. Did it spur any other moves? I feel like all the other moves were already kind of in place. Like, I don't think this necessarily spurred anything else.
Okay. What about Cooey?
No announcement.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
But
we have had some other announcements. So let's get into those. Scott, let's start with Catlin Schneider. That team is parting ways. They are not going to play each other next year. No news on what that is going to look like for the 4 of them. Just that that's going to be that for the foursome of Catlin Schneider, Alex Horvath, Sterling Middleton, Jason Ginter. Yeah, that'll be it for the 4 of them. So British Columbia becomes wide open once again. See what happens. Does Catlin Schneider go back to Saskatchewan? Do the other 3, do they keep playing together in some way? Are they going to, play at all, frankly, at the high performance level? Or is this a potentially take a year off, do a little step back? We'll see.
Yeah, I think this is a soft landing spot for if there's any skips out there that are looking.
Yeah.
I don't know who left Team Slachinski. Maybe
Kerr Drummond left.
Kerr Drummond?
Yeah, but he's stepping away. He's got a young child, so he's stepping away from curling.
I think like this 3 is ripe for the plucking.
Yeah.
I don't know who it's going to be. Like, I don't know anything, but would it shock you if Team Cooey said we're done and Tyler Tardy went back?
Yes, that would shock me. I would be very surprised for that. I would suggest, Scott, there's a free agent skip who could step into a team.
Yes.
That already has a bunch of points and plays in a province that is pretty wide open.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
It could make a lot of sense. I am curious. I think too, if again, as we record this, no announcement, obviously Reed Carruthers needs a player. Catlin Schneider, that could be a place for him, or any one of these guys if they wanted to. But if Ginter, Horvath, and Middleton want to stay together, that gives them the flexibility to bring in someone like Brendan Botcher, or hell, bring in Reed Carruthers if they want to. It could sort of pry him out of Manitoba, but that could be where the musical chairs land. Schneider to Carruthers and Botcher to these guys. We'll see. You did mention that Kerr Drummond has stepped away from the sport. Kyle Daring is going to play with Aaron Slachinski. That fills that role at second. That is because Karsten Sturme and his team are no longer going to play together, with Karsten Sturme stepping away from the sport. So that's going to be it for them, Scott.
Yeah, that was a little surprising to me, but with Kyle Daring going onto Team Slachinski, I think that doesn't weaken them. You know, with Kurt Drummond stepping away. I think that reinforces that Slichinsky are going for it. Champions of Alberta last year looking to defend. Kyle Daring is a really, really good player. We saw Brad Gushue take him to the Worlds as their fifth, which shows me that Gushue has a lot of confidence in Kyle, and Kyle should have a lot in himself as well. So I think Slichinsky doesn't get any weaker at the worst. I think they're the same or a little bit better going into next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say it's not just Carson Sturmey, but also Curtis Goller, the lead from that team, are both moving on from competitive curling according to the release from the team. The other news, Scott, Team Epping is going to look very different next year. The Horgan siblings are going to play with John Epping after Epping's team from this year broke up. So Epping is going to skip. Tanner Horgan is going to play second, Jacob Horgan at third, and Ian McMillan is going to be the lead. So a change there with Tanner Horgan, who of course skipped his own team at the junior level, has tons of success, has played with his brother pretty much his whole career, but they're going to switch spots, and Jacob is going to go up to the third position. So that seems like a nice mix for a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know if they announced who's going to be in the house, but Jacob Horgan has been making shots. He's been like a super effective shot maker with Team Horgan. So, it's a little bit surprising that the lineup would shake out this way, but I think this is John putting his, maybe this is his last foray to try and push and get one of those pre-trials spots to try and get into those Olympic trials. But I think, it's a good move for Team Horgan too, to link up with a skip that's got a lot of experience.
Yep.
They had a good run with Darren Moulding as part of their team. So this move makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, me too. I really like it. Another thing I like, Scott, Jean-Michel Menard is back. He's going to be playing with Felix Asselin next season. Felix is going to skip. Jean-Michel Menard is going to be the third. The great tragedy in this lineup shuffle is that Martin Crête is going to be the second. So what happens to the calls?
Where's the goat?
What happens to the goat? So that is a change there for Felix Asselin. Again, I like that. It is unfortunate that it comes at the expense of his brother, but he did post that it's nothing like they don't hate each other. Like they're still brothers and they still get along and everything. It's just they're not going to curl together anymore. So if you can bring in a former Brier champion, a world champion in the mixed field, and he wants to play for a couple of years, why not? And again, Quebec, pretty open on the men's side, and they could work their way into certainly a pre-trial spot for sure. Don't know if they'll be able to work their way into the top 6, 7 to get the guaranteed trial spot, but certainly they'll be in the pre-trials.
Yeah, absolutely. How old is Jean-Michel now? 50, 49?
Yeah, I would guess that, he's in his
late 40s.
Late 40s or 50s. He won in 2006.
Yeah.
So,
it'll just be fun to have him involved. Maybe we should go down to the club, Sean, on Wednesday night and watch him play in the Cash League to, scout what it'll be like. But no, it's pretty good news for Quebec curling to have Jean-Michel Menard back.
Yeah,
playing competitively.
And Scott, 48. He was 48 and won the 2022 World Mixed Curling Champions. And then, 10 days later, I actually saw him play a game in the Cash League in which he took like 2.5 hours to play. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that wasn't necessarily great. But anyway, that is the change there for Felix Asselin and his team. The other one on the men's side that we should address is the retirement of one Glenn Howard after a very long and very illustrious career, Scott. We, or maybe I, have my fun with Glenn Howard. Certainly the modern Glenn Howard, and talking about picks and all that kind of stuff. But when you actually rack up greatest careers in men's Canadian curling, I don't know, man. Like it's, if you look at the breadth of his career, not just as a skip, you look at his whole career, there's not many that surpass Glenn Howard.
No, you're right, Sean. Part of the great teams of his brother, late 80s, early 90s, then striking out his own through basically all of the 2000s, being near the top of the game, and all those battles with Kevin Martin, just very memorable. The Briars themselves were not as memorable because it was like, well, Howard's going to play Martin in the finals, so
yeah,
what are we doing here? But such good games.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my favorite teams too, to be honest. Like, I really cheered for them against Kevin Martin because they just seemed like they had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they produced that documentary of them off the ice that was pretty fun to watch. Crushing beers and playing golf, all that kind of stuff. So fun on that side. But the World Championships, I think he won every World Championship he went to.
It's impressive.
If not, it was maybe one shy of that, setting that record. So yeah, a really amazing career, a long career. Like Kevin Martin has been retired for what, 8 years now?
We played in I think his last big event was the 2013 trials, I think.
2013 trials. Yeah. I was thinking, was he there in 17? And no, he wasn't. So
No.
yeah, 10 years, give or take. So, Glenn outlasted him. So there you go. I think he's the winningest player at the Briar too of all time.
That would make sense. He's got 14 medals from the Briar, 4 gold medals, 7 silvers, and 3 bronze. You're correct. He did win every world championship he played in at the men's level, 4 for 4 with world championships, 2 with Russ and 2 as the skip, and the silver from the 2009 Olympic curling trials. Just an incredible career for Glenn Howard. And with that, it means that Scott Howard is the perma-skip of Team Howard. And we mentioned that John Epping's team, or John Epping has a new team. That means that the Cam brothers were available. They are going in to Team Howard. Matt and Jason, of course. Matt stepped in at the Briar when Glenn could not play. Jason's coming in permanently. They're going to play with Tim March. The change there is Dave Mathers has announced that he is going to step away from competitive curling for a season. He and his wife, Lynn Kreviatsik, they are back-to-back champions of Ontario in the mixed doubles. So presumably they will continue to do that. But from the 4-person side, Dave Mathers is taking a step back. So 2 changes of the top 2 teams in Ontario for the past few years. You'd expect that moving forward, that they'll probably be the 2 favorites in Ontario again next year.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good move for Scott and Tim to move forward with the Cam brothers, 2 really, really strong players that they have some experience with. So looking forward to see how that team performs next year. And like we talked about, equally excited for the new Team Epping to see what they've got.
Yeah, so I think that does it on the men's side. So let's talk about the women's side. Scott, we'll go with the big announcement that was made today as we record this, that one Chelsea Carey is making her return to the 4-person game, replacing Jennifer Jones. Of course, Jennifer Jones announced just before the Scotties, actually maybe the day of the Scotties opening, that she was stepping away from the 4-person game. And it was announced today that Chelsea Carey is coming back in for the first time, I believe, since the 2019 Scotties. Did that team break up after that? Or maybe they defended in 2020. But it's been a while there, Scott, for Chelsea Carey in the 4-person game. And I'm mildly sad in the sense that I still think she'd be a great broadcaster, but she's a great player as well, 2-time Scottish champion. That seems like a really good fit for that team.
I think so, yeah. I think, Sean, she did get back to the Scotties in 2023.
That was as a spare, though, I believe.
Yeah, you might be right. But she got in representing Saskatchewan. Was it 2021, 22? Playing with Jolene Campbell.
Yes, they did do that in Saskatchewan in 2021, 2022. Did qualify for the 2022 Scotties Tournament of Hearts as wild card number 2. You are correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So didn't win Saskatchewan, but was wild card. So yeah, but you're right. She's been sort of off the scene for a few years, and we don't get to see her broadcast anymore, which is unfortunate. But this makes a lot of sense, Sean. There was one big free agent women's skip out there, and it was her.
Yeah.
So no, this totally makes sense that she would step in for this team, play a bit of a similar role to Jennifer Jones, right? The veteran skip, been to a lot of Scotties, knows what's going on with this young team that has made the last 2 finals.
Yeah,
has a lot of skills. Like they're quite talented, and it seems to me just a matter of time before they win. So putting these two together makes absolute sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good mix there, and yeah, it's, as you say, 2-time defending silver medalists. They're situated very, very well, the 3 of them, and Chelsea Carey's won a couple, so it does seem like a good mix. Another veteran coming in with a lot of experience to a team that has had some levels of success early on, but hasn't gotten over the hump. That was announced earlier this week that Lisa Weigel is coming back to the 4-person game. She's going to join Laurie St. George and her team playing lead. They announced that Kelly Madaw would no longer be with the team. Kelly Madaw had a really funny post, I thought, seeking a new team, just saying, hey, like, I can sweep a little, I can make shots here, but I'm also fun to be around. So come play with me. So that is the change on that team. Lisa Weigel back, first time since, as a full-time member of a team, since she parted ways with Team Homan. Really nice to see Lisa Weigel back. She's a great ambassador for the sport, Scott, in addition to being a great player. So it's nice to see her find I think, a really good fit here with Team St. George.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense too. Like being from Ottawa, living in Ottawa, it's close to Quebec, which may not mean anything, but
good geography.
Yeah, you're close. I don't know. It makes a lot of sense, and you're right. Lisa being in the game is great. I think her presence around curling is one of the people that I don't think anybody has anything bad to say about Lisa Weigel. So very glad she's with the team, and if she wants to play to do that. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this lineup's going to shake out, because it seems like Laurie St. George is like collecting Pokemon, right? Like she's getting all the players to come. Jamie Sinclair, hey, come play with me. Marie-France, come back, play with me. Now Lisa. So yeah, we'll see how they fit together. But I think it'll be good.
Yeah. Out east, we have a new team. Sylvie Quillian has formed a new team. She, of course, was playing with Andrea Kelly. A couple Scotties as the third for her. Now she is back skipping. She skipped all through juniors and early in the women's game. So she is back to skipping. She is going to be playing with, a team of Jennifer Armstrong, Erin Carmody, and Katie Vanderboer. That's a team that pretty familiar with. Daryl Nowlin is going to be the coach. That's a familiar name to those in the curling podcast community. The last time we saw Jennifer Armstrong was with Team Corinne Brown this past season. Carmody we've seen for years playing as well, and the lead Vanderburn has played in 5 Scotties. So that includes with Andrew Kelly on that great 2022 run. Melissa Adams won New Brunswick last year, but Scott, you got to expect that the team is, if not not the favorite, one of the favorites going into next season to represent New Brunswick.
Yeah, I think they will be the favorites, and a good collection of players there, Sean. So I would expect them to, maybe make some noise. Dave, wow, I'm reading this, and that Erin Carmody is 35 makes me feel like, oh boy, that 2010 Scotties was a long time ago. But I'll still like a good player. All of those ladies, really good, strong players. So excited to see what they can do in New Brunswick. And like you said, Daryl Nolan, well-known coach, making his appearances on the girls podcast. So
there you go.
Always love listening to that.
Yes, and then over in Manitoba, a couple changes here. We have Megan Walter stepping away. She is leaving to focus on her studies, her careers. Studies. Yes. I guess studies and career are kind of the same thing. So Megan Walter is stepping away. So an opening there on Team Kate Cameron. Megan Walter, she had a couple of really good runs in Scotties. We'll see if she decides to come back in a few years or if she just, that's it for her in the competitive game. But a really good player, and we'll see how Kate Cameron moves on and how she fills that void on her team.
Yeah, I mean, she had a pretty high profile spare playing for Taylor McDonald at the Scotties. So, we'll see. We'll see.
Yes, Scott, also a team has left Manitoba, which hard to blame Jolene Campbell and her team. We're playing out of Manitoba. They're going back to Saskatchewan. Dana Demmons is joining them. They're going to be back in Saskatchewan along with Abby Ackland and Rachel Erickson. Seems like a really good idea to get out of Manitoba. Mm-hmm. Just saying.
Yeah, definitely a good idea. And now they've got 3 Saskatchewaners on their team, so they can go back to trying to represent the green and gold or green and white. I don't know. Sorry, Dean.
Yeah, and they're going to be competing against Ashley Tivino and her team. Skylar Ackerman announced that she was going to step away from competitive curling, and Brittany Tran is coming on to that team. So that is going to be the new lineup there. Brittany Tran not playing with Kayla Skrillick anymore. So we have a new lineup, 2 new lineups there out of Saskatchewan, Scott.
Yeah, I think, it'll be even more fun than usual to watch the Saskatchewan Scotties. Great production value as always.
Yep.
Even more good teams.
Exactly. We like that. Now, one of the reasons why Brittany Tran was looking for a new spot is that Margot Fleming has joined Team Skrillick there following the breakup of Team Galusha, the planned breakup of Team Galusha, or the end of Team Galusha. Yeah. Margot Fleming is joining that team, and Sarah Colton also needed a new home after the disbandment of Team Galusha. She is going to play with Corinne Brown out of British Columbia.
Yeah, that's going to be a good match, I think, having those players play together. Looking forward to see if that can, take Corinne Brown from that playoff bubble at the Scotties into that next level.
Yes, and that spot on Team Brown was available because Jennifer Armstrong is stepping away to focus on mixed doubles.
Didn't she go to New Brunswick with Sylvie Quinlan?
Oh, yeah, I did say that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but okay, there you go. Even though in the announcement from Team Brown, Jen has made the difficult decision to step away from the team to pursue mixed doubles. Well,
Maybe
things
I'm
change.
wrong. Maybe it's a different Jennifer Armstrong.
No, because I said it earlier. You're right. She just played with Corinne Brown. Well, sometimes these announcements aren't always what they say they are, I guess. So there you go, Scott. That's all the movement that we have here in Canada to this point. I reserve the right to note that by the time I release this, and hopefully it's within 40 minutes of us finishing recording, things could change.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely could change.
Yeah.
Lots of movement. It's interesting, given that there's really like one full season until the trials.
Yeah.
Having this much movement, I'm surprised. Like I would have expected it last year.
Right.
Last year we got a bit. Not as much as this though.
Yeah. And this is really the time. Like there'll be some minor things next year. Maybe some of these people who are stepping away come back to fill in here and there, but we won't see that much. And this isn't really, we won't get too into the weeds on this right now. Maybe this is another summer episode. I'm not sure this is good for the sport. Like I know there's a lot of interest in it and people really seem to dive into it, but I feel like those are people like us and people who really follow intently all year round. For casual fans, people who turn on the events when they're on TV, I'm not sure this is great. Like part of me wonders if this is getting to the point of men's college basketball where you turn it on and you're like, who is this? Who's playing with who? Like there's not that much continuity. I don't know. We could talk about it in more detail, but this one, just because of the time in the cycle, it didn't feel as expected to me. And I know that Colin teased stuff and he has a lot of inside knowledge. He talks to these players. So he noted that, I think it is first newsletter that he put out. He was like, well, I don't expect that much. And then he was like, oh no, never mind. Expect a lot.
He's like, no, I was wrong.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just sort of catches you a little off guard. So I'm not sure, but Scott, initially, again, we won't go too in depth on this, but good for the sport.
No. I think it seems to me like a little bit of a reaction to the top,
Sure.
right? Like Rachel Homan was so good this year. Brad Gushue has been so good for the last 6 years that teams are trying to position themselves to catch those. And when it doesn't work right away,
right,
the way that the Olympic cycles are set up incentivizes the movement rather than sticking with it, to like, well, we have to do something to try and get into that Olympic fight.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Whereas they might be better served staying together for 4 years. And by the next Olympic cycle, it'll be the time. But I guess people's attention spans aren't that long. This is my boomer rant about TikTok.
But it's true. Like I remember the 2017 trials, or maybe it was later in that season. Maybe it was after the 2018 Brier. Team Gushue in their hotel room had their big announcement was we're going to stay together for another 4 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously that worked out. So I don't know. Like, again, it's a conversation for another day, but this past few weeks has been jarring.
Yeah, I agree. It has been a bit jarring and not, like you say, not good for the sport in my opinion. And we haven't even talked about internationally. Like, I'm sure there's more to come internationally too. So
yeah, so a lot going on as we get into the summer season. This is our favorite time of the year to put together shows. We love doing this in the spring and the summer. A lot of fun ideas in my book here for the summer, and we'll go through them. And if you want to hear those, please do subscribe wherever you get your shows. Likes, rates, comments, all that good stuff helps us out. Thanks to those of you who continue to follow along as we went through our little hiatus there. Very appreciative that people gave us had the patience to work with us there and just sort of give us that time. And so, yeah, I do appreciate that. But of
And
course,
Sean, I'll say thanks to Lori for reaching out. We're okay. I don't know if we've written back to her at this point yet or
no,
not.
I will. I will. Yes.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Yes. Thank you to Lori for that. And I appreciate that. Also, Scott, I want to just shout out to Yuli from Switzerland. He sent a very lovely email to us where he talked about our analysis of the women's world final and the momentum shift there. So I really appreciate that. A really nice email for us from Yuli. Again, I really appreciate it. And we'll get into it obviously at the end of the year, but he gave us another nominee for shot of the year.
Ooh.
So here you go, Scott.
Nice.
Yeah. So he wrote, unfortunately, I don't know the exact rules governing the selection process. I'll tell you, Yuli,
it's a very opaque process.
Yeah, it's it's a proprietary process, but yeah. So again, I appreciate the email, and thanks to everybody who writes in as well. And if you'd like to write in, it's gameofstonespodcast@gmail.com. We're on the socials at Game of Stones Pod and Game of Stones Podcast on Facebook. Scott, our curling season is in the books with potential one more game for either of us. But how would you summarize your 2023-2024 curling season?
I think it was good, Sean. It was a yo-yo season for us. We we started in B, went to A, down to C, back up to A.
Yeah.
We did manage to get a win in A
We
our
did.
second time around.
We did.
Probably should have been 2, but by the end of the year, we were all, a little, I won't say checked out, but worn out.
Yeah, a little gassed.
Yeah, but it's been pretty fun. You say yes, we are playing in the Perry.
Yep.
I played on Monday. I'm going to sit out tomorrow night's game, but having fun there too. So yeah, if there's another game that comes after tomorrow, I'll see if I can suit up. If not, come out to the club on Saturday, watch a little bit. Yeah, I think the season overall has been fun. We decided to re-rack it.
Yeah.
For next year.
We did.
With our team. So yeah, you'll be getting more updates and hopefully more, news of us winning games. But I think we were 500, right? Thereabouts.
Yeah, and it's more fun when not more fun, but the stories are usually better when we lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and Scott, we talked about it a few weeks ago, the idea of in a draw to the button situation, don't measure, it doesn't matter. It's like a 1 in 100 happened again on Wednesday. We might have won it. I don't know. I didn't take too close of a look, but it was 11-20 and just like, all right, if you can't tell, you guys win.
Yeah. It was pretty close.
Yeah, it was legitimately very close. I think their third, Luke, who's, I get on him sometimes about being a very slow player. I think he was a little annoyed with us. He was definitely annoyed that we didn't measure
the first. Yeah.
But I also think he was a little annoyed that we were just like, okay, you guys win. Like I got the sense that he wanted to have more of a debate.
Oh,
I don't know. That's the sense I got. He didn't say anything, but
do you think it was because they had to buy drinks?
Maybe, or maybe he felt it was like a cheap win this way. We come off as being like, we're the saints of this scenario of like,
yeah. Well, they lost their third game, Sean. So I think that was tonight. So I think it was already posted.
Okay, so they are done and dusted, and we would have played obviously the team that they played if we had won that game, and the team that beat the guys we played, the team they beat in their second game, that's who we'll play in our third game.
Yes. And we're playing Sarah Fletcher.
Yes, and that has one of the Perry grandchildren on it.
Oh, cool.
So there you go. So it should be a fun time. as we wrap up our season, and as you wrap up your seasons out there, or for our arena friends or some of our arena friends in the United States, as you get ready to kick off your seasons. Hopefully everyone is out there who you play, as you have a good time. Be safe. Enjoy it. It is a wonderful, wonderful sport, and we will be alongside throughout the summer to chat about it. But until we meet again, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.